Angeles Times Grand Prix endurance race was born. Double overhead cam engines powered some cars. The drivers thought they were well protected, but crash helmets back then looked dangerous now. In that 1958 Los Angeles Times Grand Prix, 203 miles were completed at an average of 88.8 miles an hour. Such drivers as Phil Hill, Bobby Unser, Troy Ruttman, and Carroll Shelby competed, not all successfully. Dan Gurney fought hard in that race, but when the checkered flag flew, Californian Chuck Day was in victory lane. Gurney finished second. It's quite different in 1986. The track is basically the same, but today's racer is much more sophisticated and high-tech. Capable of the speeds at over 200 miles an hour and carrying a price tag close to $300,000. The drivers still have nerves of iron, but are now better protected with crash helmets and better-built race cars. Ford, Chevy, Porsche, Jaguar, March, they're all here today on this crystal clear day for the Los Angeles Times Grand Prix. ESPN, your #1 auto racing network, presents Auto Racing 86. We welcome you to Southern California, Riverside International Raceway on an exceptionally beautiful, clear day. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins along with IMSA regular Bill Adam, and this is the Los Angeles Times Ford Grand Prix. Now, these drivers sometimes compete for 24 hours, sometimes for 12. Today's race is a 6-hour endurance, Bill.
Well, it's still a 6-hour endurance race, but because of the nature of this race, and particularly the track, it's basically going to be a sprint. You have to run a very, very fast pace, and it will see a record average today.
Now, we have talked about the parity in NASCAR racing this year. There is also parity in IMSA racing. We have had a different winner in each race this year.
Without question, the best series of Camel GT races I have ever seen. Not only different winners in each of the 4 races so far this year, but we've had 3 different brands of tire win. Last year, BF Goodrich won this race, of course, and maybe today's going to be their day.
All right, now what about this track here at Riverside?
Well, even though the average speed is not the fastest that we race on in the GT series, turns 1 through 5, which is commonly called the S's, is without question the fastest series of turns that we drive on. Extremely dangerous, and it takes a great deal of precision to go down and to make a very good lap at this track.
We have had some exceptionally fast speeds during qualifying here this weekend, and with more on that, let's go to our pit reporter for this afternoon, a guy who'll be down there during the 6 hours, Ron Kendrick. He has more on the starting lineup for today's race.
If this is to be the last year for racing at Riverside, California, as many say it is, then the IMSA cars are going out in grand style. The first 3 rows have posted times faster than the fastest qualifying time ever here. On the pole, John Paul and Whitney Gantz in the Buick Hawk, and what a difference a year makes for the Nissan. They didn't qualify here a year ago. This year they're on the outside of row 1, and in practice they've been turning times on the straightaway in excess of 205 miles per hour.
All right, thank you, Ron. Here are the GTP point standings going into today's race. Al Holbert and Derek Bell tied with 54, then Darren Brassfield with 48, and Jochen Moss with 33. Today's LA Times Ford Grand Prix is being brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. By Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by BF Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. We'll be back with a look at the starting lineup and to start today's LA Times Ford Grand Prix from Riverside International Raceway right after this. where the cars are on the track warming up for the start of today's event. And here now is the starting lineup for this 6-hour endurance. On the pole in car number 45, the Buick Hawk, driven by John Paul Jr. and Whitney Gantz. On the outside of row number 1, the Nissan GTP machine, car number 83, driven by Jeff Brabham and EFR Elliott Forbes Robinson. In the second row, on the inside, will be the number 7 Mustang Probe, driven by Klaus Ludwig and Tom Gloy. Outside of row number 2, the Porsche 962, number 14, driven by Al Holbert and Derek Bell. In the third row, the Mustang Probe, car number 07, driven by Lynn St. James and Pete Halsmer. Outside of row number 3 will be the number 86 Porsche 962 of Bob Wallach and Paulo Barilla. The fourth row, car number 52, the Corvette, driven by Doc Bundy and Wally Donovac Jr., car 52. Outside of row number 4, Bob Lovenberg and Ken Madron, car number 46, the team car to Paul and Gantz. The fifth row, car number 68, the BF Goodrich machine, driven by Darren Brassfield and Jochen Maas. Outside of the fifth row, car number 16, driven by Rob Dyson and Price Cobb. Row number 6, the Jaguar, number 44, driven by Bob Tullius and Chip Robinson. Outside of row number 6, the other BFG car, driven by Jim Busby and John Martin, car number 67. In row number 7, Bob Aiken and James Weaver, car number 5. Outside of the 7th row, the other Jaguar, car 04, driven by Brian Redman and Hurley Haywood. And the other GTP starter in today's race, Jim Adams and John Hoshkis, in the car number 00, the Porsche March. Well, the cars head down the backstretch now, and from high above Riverside International Raceway, we get set for the start. And Bill Adam, it should be an exciting start here as we get set for this 6-hour endurance contest.
Well, this is a moment of a lot of thought on the part of the drivers. You're trying to concentrate as much as possible to really get all of your feelings into order, not thinking about anything other than that flag that's going to be dropping in only a few seconds. With these cars in the front row, you want to have the car on boost, having that's all the horsepower available right when you want it. You drag your brake a little bit, start to get your foot on the gas pedal.
The pace car moves off the track. Here comes the field off of turn number 9, and they get the green flag. The LA Times Ford Grand Prix underway, and John Paul Jr. grabs the lead at the start of the race. Here they come now up through the series of S's that you referred to in the open, Bill.
There was a great example of being on the boost, as I talked about. Klaus Ludwig from the second row in the very small engine Ford Probe really had that car up on horsepower, and look at how tight he stuck on John's tail. This Buick develops probably 200 horsepower more than the Ford Probe in second, and yet Klaus is keeping that car right there, partly because John is running a lower boost and not using all the horsepower available, but also because he got such an excellent start.
Everybody moving up through the S's. Looks like everybody moving up through there nicely. The lead is held by John Paul Jr. Right behind him is Klaus Ludwig. Here's the battle for third position. That's the Nissan, driven by Jeff Brabham, now running in third.
Incredible. Look at the distance these two people are pulling out in that third place battle. This is really unusual for an opening lap, and you try to be careful. Your tires are cold. You don't want to make any mistakes. And you look at them both pulling away here.
And it's a long race, Bill, and you really have to pace yourself in a 6-hour endurance.
Well, most of the drivers in this event are pure professionals. They're aware of this, and they will pace themselves to an extent. Just rocketing down that straight.
Oh, we have a car off the track. That is Don Bell in car number 01. Now that's one of the Camel Light cars. Meanwhile, the leaders come off of corner number 9 onto the straightaway, completing another lap. We're following the number 46 car that is being driven by Bob Lovenberg and Ken Madron. Lovenberg in the car right now.
That's the team car to the leader at the moment. It looks like Bob's running in 5th place, very close to Al Holbert. I think they in turn are following the Nissan of EFR and Brabham.
3rd, 4th, and 5th here up through the S's once again. Jeff Brabham, followed closely by Al Holbert there in car number 14. And then right behind him is Bob Lovenberg. 3rd, 4th, and 5th here. The leaders have pulled away.
Oh, what a master Holbert is. You just got to admire this man, what he's able to accomplish. And it doesn't matter where he runs. You always pick him as one of the pre-race favorites.
What a success story for Al Holbert. Of course, last year pretty much dominating the GTP circuit, but although he has run well this year, not quite as successful as last year. He only has 1 victory to his credit this year.
Yeah, it's a minute. There's Al there in the screen, and he really just does fit the image of what everyone wants to have in a driver. He's very, very fast. He's very easy on equipment. And last season, he had the dreams. Here we got a pass here.
Bob Lobenberg trying to make a move on Al Holbert, and he does so. So a nice move by Bob Lobenberg here, as already the faster GTP cars are beginning to lap some of the slower GTO and GTU classes.
Well, this bumps Bob up into 4th place at this point, and I'm not sure whether that was just pure horsepower that got him past Al at this point, or if he got a better run onto the straight. It didn't look like Al had any problems, so I'm suspecting that maybe the Buick Hawks are running a little bit more boost on the motors, thereby giving them more horsepower, and that was enough to put them by Al, and now he's up into 4th place.
And Lobenberg is right behind Jeff Brabham, so we could have a challenge here for 3rd position. There is the leader, meanwhile, John Paul Jr. in car number 45. Right behind him is Klaus Ludwig in that Mustang Probe, and as you can see, they are lapping some of the slower cars. Paul looking good here in the very early stages of this 6-hour endurance.
Well, it's kind of surprising, too, that Klaus is sticking so close, and I think he wants the lead. He may want to give Ford that additional coverage of being in front of, quote, their own race.
Once again down the backstretch where speeds reach well over 200 miles an hour, now setting the car into turn. There's a good look at John Paul Jr.
Let's see what the horsepower this Buick can do now down the backstretch. As I mentioned before, the engine has got tremendous potential here.
The leader, John Paul Jr., running right behind him is Klaus Ludwig. We will be back with more from the Riverside International Raceway. Being provided by the Airship Columbia. Now, this Goodyear blimp based in Carson, California, normally has a single pilot operation, but because of the length of the race today, it has 2 pilots, Charles Russell and Dick Esch.
We've got a problem here. The Doc Bundy Corvette is definitely coming into the pits and moving very slowly, and yet there's no signs of smoke or wobbling from the car. I don't know what this could be.
This is the car that won the Road Atlanta race not too long ago. Let's go down to Ron Kendrick. Perhaps he can tell us what's wrong with this machine.
Doc Bundy brought the Chevrolet Corvette onto pit road, an unscheduled pit stop. The engine was cutting out. The crew is working feverishly on the car. They know what the problem is. They don't know whether it's electrical or whether it's a fuel problem.
We'll keep our eye on that situation. Meanwhile, the leader continues to be John Paul Jr. in car number 45 as he is pretty much pulled away from the field. Back here in the battle for 3rd position, Jeff Brabham and Bob Lobenberg.
Bob has been closing up on Jeff for a few laps there. And it almost had contact there. In fact, he's been able to get underneath Jeff, and he's now taken over 3rd place.
Well, it was a nice move there in turn number 9, but boy, he came dangerously close to that slower Camel light car. Bob Lobenberg has now moved into 3rd place.
For a moment, I thought Jeff was going to come in the pits there. He didn't really look at him, but possibly he just lost the boost on the engine by having to lift off the gas for that brief moment. Hopefully that's all it was, because this car has performed spectacularly well this week.
Back in the field, we have a battle going on. This is Jochen Mass in car number 68, and behind him, Hurley Haywood in car 04. Now, we see Bob Lobenberg moving up to challenge his teammate, John Paul Jr. So we have the Conti Buick cars running right together on the racetrack in 1st and 2nd.
Well, this is a sight that certainly has to make Phil Conti awfully happy, and the people at Buick as well. Being with them last year, that they hold a very strong spot in my heart, and it's something that just constantly amazes me how these little V6 engines that are basically taken from production blocks can get up there and challenge the pure racing engines like the Porsches. It's a tribute to American engineering.
All right, Bill, what about teamwork on in IMSA racing? Will Bob Lobenberg challenge John Paul here, or is John Paul the #1 driver and therefore should stay in the lead?
Well, John is without question the #1 driver on this team, and without looking at these pictures right now, I would have said that no, there wouldn't be a challenge, but Bob is definitely closing up on John. You're going to see a pass here.
Lobenberg trying to move into the lead, passing his teammate John Paul Jr. Let's see if he gets the job done. Yes, he does. Bob Lobenberg moves into the lead at the end of the backstretch, entering turn number 9.
Without question, Bob has more horsepower available at this point. Now, that's one of 2 things. Either he has started the race on a different boost setting, that's the turbocharger has been turned up to give more horsepower, or John has dropped his RPM just that little bit, maybe shifting at 7,500 revs rather than 8,000, to try and make the cars live for the whole 6 hours.
John Paul Jr. has led the entire distance until this lap. Bob Lobenberg, who lives up in the San Francisco, California area, has gone into the lead. And now is even beginning to stretch out the advantage on his teammate. And running in third and fourth position, Klaus Ludwig, and now Al Holbert has moved to fourth.
Yeah, Al is closing up too on Klaus. The initial distance that Klaus is able to keep from John has really stretched now, and Al is closing up. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him take a shot at a pass very shortly. These cars look like they're running very, very similar horsepowers, but actually the Ford Probe runs with a much smaller engine. It's, I believe, 2.1 liters compared to Al's Porsche motor of 3.2.
And there is Doc Bundy, who is leaving the pits. He's been in there for several minutes and is many laps down. However, it's back into the race for Doc Bundy in that number 52 Hendrick Motorsports Corvette GTP machine. So we will be back with more of the Los Angeles Times Ford Grand Prix from Riverside International Raceway right after these messages. Back at Riverside, where the pole sitter John Paul Jr., who led this race at one point, is in the pits.
Very mysterious. There was no signs of smoke or any impending problems from this car, and I really don't even know what it could be at this point.
His teammate, meanwhile, Bob Lovenberg, continues to hang on to the lead here, and Lovenberg doing very well.
Both these Buick Hawks just look so strong today. Here's a second place car. Klaus Ludwig still running strongly, and Al Holbert has dropped back a little bit, but I expect to see Al move up and try and take a challenge at Klaus in the near future.
Second and third here, Klaus Ludwig and Al Holbert. Again, they're lapping some of the slower cars at the end of the backstretch going into turn number 9.
Those Fords really are remarkable cars to consider they're working with such small motors. Unfortunate there. Al just got blocked by one of the slower GTO cars. You can see in a turbocharged car when somebody gets blocked, they have to lift their foot off the gas, and that's what causes the flame out the back. Just raw fuel getting into the hot exhaust pipe.
There's a look at Klaus Ludwig. I would imagine that running on this type of racetrack with these slower GTU and GTO cars really presents a problem at some point.
It can, particularly down through the S's here, because after turn 2, which is the right-hander that you see after the pits, it's a case where you lift your foot off the gas, and then for the bounce, the S's can run almost flat out.
Jeff Brabham has come into the pits in his Nissan GTP machine. They're going to work on it, changing the tires and refueling the car. Meanwhile, John Paul Jr. remains in the pits, but it appears as if they have the car running again. And yeah, he is going back onto the racetrack. So hopefully they have the problems corrected in that car. John Paul Jr. re-entering the race.
Yeah, I hope so. Again, there's no smoke out of the engine. There's no oil, and everything looks like it's okay. I suspect that it's maybe a suspension problem at this point. John's accelerating strongly back down through the S's here. No, actually, he's not. It looked like he was slowing a bit there again.
We go back and check on this battle for second and third position, which is a very good one now. Ludwig just leading Al Holbert by inches. Holbert appears is going to make a move on him. Well, he looked like he was going to, but had to back off for the corner.
That's great. Oh, and here's the Hallsmer St. James probe has been able to close right up on those two as well. So now we're going to have a really fine 3-car battle. This will be very, very interesting. We've got a Ford sandwich.
Second, third, and fourth. There's the number 07 car. And John Paul Jr., you were right, Bill. He was not accelerating and not moving out of the pits up to speed, and he has pulled that car off of the race course. So our pole sitter, John Paul Jr., appears to be out of the race. And this is has been the story in this car for many, many races. It's a fast car, but its endurance has just not been all that great.
It has been absolutely a heartbreaking car because they have had the most remarkable reliability with that V6.
And another car out of the race is Hurley Haywood in the Jaguar, number 04. He has gotten out of the car and has already taken off the helmet and waiting for help to get that car back to the pit area. Hurley Haywood in the Jaguar also out.
That's a surprise that the Jaguars have had tremendous reliability with their cars. They have such a fine, fine team. And to see Hurley out this early in the race is really a shock. That's something I'm sure no one expected. Look at Holbert and Klaus just going at it tooth and nail here right now. Both of these drivers will be having fun, trying to run a fairly hard pace and yet not really abuse their cars because they still have over 5 hours of racing to go.
Now the 07 Mustang probe with Lynn St. James, Pete Hallsberg. It was right up here with the second and third, but now Holbert, yes.
Oh, a beautiful pass. That's very difficult to do at that point. You're coming over the crest of a hill, and as you're putting on the brakes, the car tends to get light and lock up the wheels. It's very, very easy to lock those tires up and get sideways, and Al just did a perfect pass.
Al Holbert has moved into second position, dropping Ludwig back to third, and the other Mustang Probe driven by Lynn St. James and Pete Halsmer now is running in fourth position.
Well, it'll be interesting now to see if Al does pull away at all. Oh, I notice this Klaus has turned off his headlights going down the straight there. I don't think he can intimidate Mr. Holbert.
There once again is the leader, Bob Lobenberg, in car number 46. Remember, his teammate, John Paul Jr., the pole sitter of the race, has just dropped out of competition, so it's all up to Lobenberg to carry the team colors.
A bit of a surprise. I thought from the initial laps that Bob may have been running a higher boost and that John was possibly going for the win to finish the race. Now we're going to have a complete turnaround. Bob's going to be the standard bearer for the Conti team.
Boy, close racing here in the S's, as these faster cars sometimes really have to stand on the brakes to get around the GTO, the GTU, and the Camel Light cars. And
geez, I think that was just a little mark of inexperience there. Bob got to the inside of that the GTP Light car, and because he was forced to the outer part of the corner, he wasn't on the piece of the track with optimum traction and was put off onto the dust. Now here we are, we're just getting out of the outside part of the corner. See the car starting to slide actually before it even got onto the dirt and then off. Very fortunate here, there's no guardrail. The car is just going to be dirty. I'm sure they'll be able to continue.
that's the Jim Rothbard-driven Mazda Royale. His teammate is Mike Meyer, and he right now has a little bit of body damage on the right front of that car, but still is pulling away and hopefully will make it back to the pit area where repairs can be made. We go back to the leader. That is Bob Lobenberg, who had a very successful Trans Am Series a couple of years ago, and now driving the Buick Hawk here this weekend at Riverside.
Well, Bob has always been a very, very fast driver, and I think the only thing against Bob is he somehow has a reputation of being a car breaker. Hopefully this won't follow him today, and the Buick Hawk team will go on to run a successful race.
Out of this long, sweeping right-hander, turn number 9, onto the front stretch. Very short front stretch. There is turn number 1, and then up to the series of S's. Bob Lobenberg leading the Los Angeles Times Ford Grand Prix here at Riverside. Oh, here is Jeff Brabham into the wall. We saw him in the pit area not too long ago, but now this Nissan GTP machine rests against the outer wall, and it looks like it's all over for Jeff Brabham.
I'd suspect that they've been having some sort of a suspension problem. You can see from the car there really isn't any damage to indicate a severe impact with the wall, and that's the outside wall.
And now the leader, Bob Lobenberg, has come into the pit area, and we're going to have a yellow flag because of this Brabham incident. Here also is the Klaus Ludwig machine. The wrecker is on the track, and there is debris on it, so we will have an overall yellow. The pace car will come out, and the field will be slowed. So we will be back to resume our coverage of the LA Times Grand Prix. Right now, Lynn St. James and Pete Halsmer shown as the leaders. Here on ESPN Live, NASCAR racing, the Winston for last year's winners in Winston Cup competition, and also the Atlanta Invitational. That's this Sunday at 3 o'clock. Well, Jeff Brabham's Nissan is out of the race, and so is John Paul Jr. Let's go to Ron Kendrick.
John, a short day for you and for Conti Racing in the Buick Hawk. You were on pit road for an awful long time. What was the initial problem, and then what finally put you out of it?
Well, we started losing power. We had plenty of boost pressure, and all the temperatures were good, but just kind of losing grunt. And eventually, Bob went on by. It was nice running 1-2 for a while, but we came in, and they sent me out for experimental lap, and it just got louder and louder, so we shut it off and parked it over on the back.
So it's over for John Paul Jr. Al Holbert is our leader here as the green has come back out, and John Paul Jr. hopes to have a ride at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this year in the second March Dodge factory car. We'll be watching that during the month of May. Meanwhile, Al Holbert in the Lowenbrow Porsche is setting the pace here at Riverside.
Well, once again, we've got the old master of IMSA back at the controls, and it looks that you can't count Al out. You let him sit back, and here we are early in the race, and already he's got a lead. Klaus Ludwig is still running a very, very strong second, and I believe 46, the Bob Lobenberg car, is continuing on in third place, but it's awfully hard to bet against Al. He is such a proven commodity. He's so intelligent, and this car and the job that they do on the Holbert Racing crew is it's unmatched.
Holbert, of course, from Warrington, Pennsylvania, is the reigning GT champion.
Now here's our Corvette coming back up, just making a pass into oh, there's hit.
Oh, tremendous.
No. Oh.
Two cars flipping.
Oh, the Jag is flipped over very badly.
And now a fire breaks out in one of the cars. I'm not sure who is involved in this.
That's the probe.
The Ford probe is overturned and burning.
That's Lynn. You can see Lynn. She's in the car. She's moving her arms. Obviously, she's okay, but the car is on fire. Here's a marshal running up behind.
Just a terrific accident here. 3 cars involved, almost at the start-finish line, into turn number 1.
Oh, God. Well, there's Chip Robinson. That's a good sign. He's out of the Jag, and he's obviously okay. There's Lynn. She's out as well.
Oh. The number 44 Jaguar involved. There is Lynn St. James, who is walking away from her overturned and burning machine.
And Doc Bundy. So all 3 drivers have got out of an absolutely incredible impact.
This was one of the worst IMSA GT crashes I think I have ever seen. And the fire is still burning there at the Lynn St. James car. Now it's pretty much extinguished, but look at the terrific wreckage.
Just nothing left. You can see one complete corner of the car is gone. The Corvette, I think, is up against the guardrail. There it is there. You can see the whole back of that car is just destroyed.
Well, let's take a look at exactly what happened here.
It looks really like Doc has got into an area he just simply shouldn't be, and Chip Robinson is really a totally innocent member. There's the probe riding up on the rail and flipping on top of the rail as the Jaguar actually takes off. The wing, which is designed to hold the back of the car down, once the car has done 180, it's lifting the car, and it's given Chip a terrifying ride.
And we have another angle. Here's the replay.
Look at the Jag starting to take off right here. There's the back off the ground. As the probe is going up on the rail, the Jag is totally airborne at this point.
Unbelievable. Now watch the Jaguar as it hits the dirt bank and then begins a series of flips and rolls.
This is incredible. It's a testimony to the strength of all 3 of these cars, because at that point they are running 150 to 160 miles an hour, flat out, just newly into 5th gear.
And look at the damage to the wall.
There's a concrete wall. Oh, the Jag is just destroyed. But look at the roll cage is held up. The Corvette, all of the compartments where the drivers sit, they have all held up remarkably well.
And there's what's left of the Ford Pro, but again, we will tell you that all 3 drivers did manage to get out of their cars. Now, several drivers are making pit stops. Here is Jim Busby carrying our in-car camera, moving back out onto the racetrack after having made a pit stop. And it looks as if we have another fire.
I think that's the probe. It's caught fire again. Part of the unusual problem with this, it's maybe giving that is the probe again.
Yes, it is, and a terrific fire now burning.
This car is totally made out of Kevlar, a plastic substance that doesn't have metal in it, like what the Jaguar and what the Corvette have. These are aluminum chassis cars. The probe is this plastic substance, and I think it's maybe giving the fire crews a little bit more of a challenge than what they normally would have.
And as I said earlier, it's just a miracle that all 3 drivers were able to climb out of their cars and apparently were uninjured.
Unbelievable crash.
You can see the crash site, which is just beyond turn number 1, just about at the exit of the pit area. The Jaguar is on the far left of your screen. Now we zoom into the Ford Probe, which still may have a little bit of fire there. There was a tremendous fire. And of course the Corvette, which really wasn't damaged all that badly, sitting to the right of your screen as the pace car now is out on the track once again. We'll be back with our resumption of coverage right after these messages. If everything else hasn't gone wrong, now we have a little bit of wind kicking up. I guess in the Midwest we would call this at least a mini tornado, Bill.
Yeah, it just might be the ultimate turbo, getting a lot of boost right there.
All right, let's take a look while we have the opportunity, while the course is yellow, to bring you up to date on who's leading the various divisions. Here you can see the Camel Light classes are being led by Gordon Spice and Ray Bellum in their Pontiac Fiero GTP machine. In the GTO division, it's being led by the team of Scott Pruitt and Bruce Jenner. That's the Roush Ford Mustang. And then in the GTU category, which is for cars with engines under 3 liters, the leader at this point is the number 38 car, the Mazda RX-7, driven by Roger Mandeville and Danny Smith. And there is what's left of the Ford Probe.
Isn't that incredible? There's nothing left except the driving compartment.
Let's take a look once again at what happened in real time.
Well, it looks like Doc here is trying to make a pass up the inside where there just simply is no room, and the resulting collision really hits the back end of Chip Robinson's Jaguar. He is completely innocent at this point. But Doc shouldn't have tried the pass there. He got a real run of speed and thought he could make it, but there just wasn't the room for it.
And from another angle.
Horrifying, just terrible. Look at the violence of that crash.
You know, Chip's car, the one here on the left, almost goes into the crowd, and then the tremendous fire breaking out. Well, Ron Kendrick has been doing a lot of work in the pit area. Let's go to Ron.
Chip, one of the worst crashes we've seen in a long time. What happened over there?
Well, I don't really know. I was going by the outside of Lynn, and she had gone out of my peripheral vision, and next thing I know, I was sideways, so I don't know really what happened behind me.
You okay?
I'm fine.
How about the car?
The car, I didn't look at it real carefully, but I think that one's a write-off, I think.
As we come off a 9 here, I'd caught up to a 3-car train. I got one of them going into 9. And then the Jaguar's in front of me, and the Ford was in front of it. So we caught off the turn. I was coming off faster, and the Jaguar was coming off faster. He moved to the right to take the car on the outside going in 1. The Ford was in the middle of the road, so I just zipped up the inside. And as I thought I was all clear, and we went into the turn, all of a sudden I got hit real hard, and it turned me around. What I don't know is how it happened, whether Lynn didn't know I was there and turned for the corner and hit me, or whether the Jag bumped her and turned her into me. I don't know, but all of a sudden all 3 of us were gone.
Lynn St. James, the 3rd driver involved in that crash, chose not to go on camera, but said through a Ford spokesman that her car was hit by the Corvette, which in turn put her into the Jaguar, and all 3 of them off the course. Her car, the Ford Probe, ended up upside down. She was able to crawl out of the car. She's banged, bruised, but otherwise okay.
He looks going awfully slow. There's a good reason for going slow.
He has no left front wheel. He's in turn 9, is going to make it back to the pit area. That's brilliant. There's the tire that has come off that car.
Well, there's just a slip that someone in the pit crew has made, and probably just hasn't tightened the locking nut on properly. Thankfully, these Porsches are awfully strong cars, and I'll guarantee this will be out underway very, very shortly.
Remember, we still are under yellow here because of the accident, and cleanup is still going on. And you know, Bill, it's very difficult to lay blame on anyone in a situation like this. It's just one of those things, and it's racing, and it's something that you have to accept in the sport.
Without question, the Bayside crew is one of the top crews in the Camel GT series, and this type of thing happening, it can be something as simple as just a stone lodging that keeps the wheel a little bit away from the locking position, doesn't allow it to get tightened down fully.
So there you can see the field behind the pace car, so we will be back to resume our of the LA Times Grand Prix from Riverside International Raceway in just a moment. PN and the International Motor Sports Association present a track fact.
This little wheel, as innocent as it looks, actually can change the horsepower on a Camel GT car by as much as 200 horsepower. What happens by turning it is it increases the pressure that a turbocharger can put through the motor, thereby giving a driver a great deal extra horsepower. 1985, these were inside the car and have now been moved outside, only can be changed at a pit stop by the crew. What this does is take away any advantage the driver can have by turning the wheel up at a very opportune time, thereby making all of the Camel GT cars much more equal.
We're at the Los Angeles Times Grand Prix at Riverside International Raceway, and we are still under a yellow because of the accident involving Doc Bundy, Lynn St. James, and Chip Robinson. All 3 drivers okay, but a terrific accident here on the main straightaway just outside of turn number 1. Now the cars are getting ready to take the green. They will do so on the backstretch. The pace car is pulling off. The green is out, and Klaus Ludwig in the number 7 car is the leader. Here he comes down the backstretch, headed for turn number number 9.
Just really in the picture all by himself there, and I guess it's one advantage that you have and you really don't think about by being able to start in front of some GTO or GTU cars. The faster cars are not allowed to pass anyone else until the green drops, but the leader, since he has no one in front of him, can get his foot on the gas very, very early. And look at this lead, substantial lead.
In second position is Rob Dyson and Price Cobb in number 16. Then back in third position, here he comes off of the ninth corner rather, is the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche driven by Al Holbert.
Well, there was a good safe pass going into one, and thankfully that's the way to do it.
Look at the tremendous traffic here, though, up through the S's. Again, the slower cars presenting a problem for the faster GTP machines.
This provides a graphic example of what can happen to the GT prototypes going down through the S's. You saw the number 5 Coca-Cola Porsche, Bob Aiken, get blocked by slower cars. With the GTPs, you're off the gas, thereby you lose the boost, lose the additional horsepower advantage that you have, and that'll probably cost them 5 or 6 seconds in one lap alone.
Darren Brassfield in car number 68, the BF Goodrich Porsche 962, is running in fourth position. And here's the number 5 car, which is running in 7th at this point with James Weaver.
They've run very well this year. I've been very, very happy for Bob Aiken's team. And of course, the victory at Sebring just highlighted a tremendous season to date for them. I'm sure they're hoping they can follow us up with a good finish today.
Weaver a little high there, it appears, in turn number 9, but threw it nicely. He is from Andover, England. Of course, the teammate Bob Aiken in his Porsche 962. This car currently running in 7th place.
Really, really a good-looking car. Just one of the many cars. There's so many attractive cars that are running the Campbell GT series, and I think this really is becoming such a dominant series.
And we have now the in-car camera. We're in the Jim Busby, John Morton BF Goodrich car number 67, and it is running well up in the top 10. And there you can see the amount of vibration and the terrific strength that it really takes to run this course.
No one ever stops to think of the vibration that a GTP car puts a driver through, but it takes a tremendous toll on you. Not only mental to drive, but the physical beating to take in a car like this.
Klaus Ludwig, the leader in car number 7. Klaus from Bonn, West Germany. This is the Mustang Probe. Now pulling right up on nearly the rear wing of the car is the second place machine, the Porsche 962, driven by Price Cobb and Rob Dyson. So we may have a battle for the lead shaping up here as the Dyson car now closes in.
It gives every appearance of this because they have closed up substantially just in the last lap alone. I think you're going to see them make a pass here very short. Look at even closing up under braking. I wonder if perhaps the Ford is experiencing a few minor problems right now because they haven't pulled away, even with that huge jump they were able to get at the drop of the green flag. I expected they'd be able to establish a good lead, but in fact Dyson and Cobb have caught right up on them.
Good coverage from the Goodyear blimp, showing you turn number 9. And here we go as Cobb continues to close in on the leader and now makes a real threat up through the S's.
Pulling up very close down through here.
Let's see what happens. They come out of the S's, braking hard for this right-hand corner.
I expect he'll just continue to try and close up and maybe make us pass down the straight, which is going to be the safest possible position for him. He doesn't have to try a pass going into turn 6, where Al Holbert tried it. Right there was where Holbert made his pass, but it's a very risky spot. A straight line comparison, you can use the additional horsepower that a Porsche can give you. Oh, he's awfully close, just setting up.
Here we go. Let's see what happens.
I think he'll stay on his tail here and try it down the straight. Just follow him through this next corner, keeping it very neat, very tight on the tail, and try and get a good run onto the straight.
Now
onto the gas here.
They come onto the backstretch right after this series of turns, and that's when we anticipate the pass.
You notice too that Holbert has also crept up on the back, and here I think is where the Dyson Porsche may try a pass.
Good 3-car race. Now let's watch Dyson Cobb machine moving to the inside, and yes, taking over the lead.
Excellent. Good, safe pass. Very, very well done. He can get very deep into turn 9 before braking. No chance for Klaus to retake the lead. And in fact, Holbert has closed up substantially too, and I think you see Al probably do the same thing.
So the new leader is the Rob Dyson Price Cobb machine. Running in second place is still Klaus Ludwig in the Mustang Pro, but now here comes Al Holbert to the inside in the Porsche 962 and moving into second.
Another great pass. This is such a fast area of the track down through these S's. These cars are running 160, 165 miles an hour down here, and it looks from our telephoto shot here, it's fairly simple to do. In fact, it's absolutely frightening.
First three positions right here running together on the racetrack. A terrific race. It is Rob Dyson and Price Cobb first, followed by Al Holbert, and then running in third position is Klaus Ludwig and Tom Gloy. We'll be right back. Back at Riverside International Raceway for the Los Angeles Times Ford Grand Prix 6-hour endurance race for IMSA cars. The situation is that Price Cobb here in car number 16 is the leader. However, right behind him is Al Holbert in car number 14, and we could see Holbert make a move here quickly.
I think you're going to do it.
Here it is.
Just incredible for a race this long to get this sort of excitement. It's fantastic racing.
Holbert moves into the lead, dropping Price Cobb back to second place. And as you've indicated all race long, you never want to count Al Holbert out of an event.
This really is turning out into a 6-hour sprint rather than being a pure endurance race. Normally for a race, you run at a 90% capability. You try and save your equipment, you save yourself, and you try not to run very hard. Today we've got an extremely fast pace. You're getting people making passes constantly. They're just going on and on and on. Spectators, they just love this.
Al Holbert leading now. Price Cobb, who is running in second position, really isn't the normal driver on the Dyson team, but the regular driver Drake Olson has another commitment this weekend, and that's why Price Cobb is in the car.
Well, it's good to see Price here. Price is an old friend of mine, and not old chronologically because he's a young man, but fortunately I've had the pleasure of his friendship for a number of years. And he really was very fortunate last year to get a call by Rob Dyson, and I think is rewarding Rob's confidence in him by showing him some extremely fine abilities.
Watching the number 77 car, which is leading the GTO division. This is being driven at the moment by Bruce Jenner. It is running 8th overall. This is, of course, the Jack Roush prepared car, and what a terrific story for Jack Roush in IMSA racing.
Unbelievable. I think Jack Roush is just one of the absolute geniuses in the Camel GT series. This thing is so reliable. Here's another very, very interesting car, this new Spice Engineering Fiero. Last season in the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, these people won the smaller classification with their cars. Now they've come to North America, and the Camel GT series is the benefit of their engineering. We're seeing a beautiful, beautiful little machine, very well driven, very well prepared.
And you know, this is a rather interesting division of racing also. It allows you to get into big-time IMSA racing, but these cars...
little contact right there between Joe Vardy and that Porsche, just entering the back straight.
I was saying you can get into IMSA racing, but it doesn't cost nearly as much money for one of these Camel Light cars as it does for a full GTP machine.
Much less. The Porsche 962s are somewhere around $270,000 to buy. Just an incredible amount of money, whereas a GTP Light you can get in for about $100,000. Still very expensive, but a heck of a lot less.
Now we're watching a battle in the GTU division for cars with engines under 3 liters. It involves a number 50 car driven by Terry Visker. This is the Hoffaker Engineering Pontiac Fiero, and he's doing battle with the number 38 car Roger Mandeville and Danny Smith, the Mazda RX-7.
Well, the Mazdas have been so good for so many years, and the Fieros really have come on as extremely strong challengers, but in a 6-hour race, I'd be hard-pressed to pick anybody except, and particularly the Mandeville Mazda.
And you can see also the GTP faster cars trying to get around those slower cars. Now in the pit area is Klaus Ludwig in the number 7.
Now, he was running in 3rd place, and I would imagine that he's going to lose this position unless it's an extremely good pit stop for him.
Now Holbert is remaining on the racetrack and continues to set the pace. Little backfire from the car there once again as he moves through the corners.
Yeah, again, for the viewers, it's not really anything to worry about. That is just the turbocharger letting raw fuel into the exhaust pipe just for a brief second. It doesn't cause any damage at all.
Ludwig in the Mustang Pro beginning to move away once again and rejoining the race. Klaus Ludwig moves back out onto the racetrack. And in 5th spot.
So he did lose a couple of positions, but again, we've got a long way to go in this race. Certainly nothing to worry about.
And Bruce Jenner has come into the pit area, and we're getting a driver change here as his teammate Scott Pruitt, who is a former go-kart champion, steps into the car. And also moving into the pit area is that Camel Light car that we spoke about just a few moments ago, driven by Gordon Spice.
Oh, what a great looking little car that is. Very, very pretty. Oh, we got something happening here at the S.
Well, we have a car that has gone off the course. It appears to be the number 90 machine, which is driven by Les Delano.
Now we've got a signal from the track marshals that this is a relatively serious accident at this point.
Now we can see
the car
some,
looks okay.
Yeah, the car doesn't look badly damaged, and we can see some movement inside the car indicating that the driver is okay. You know what could have happened here? The car could have slid into a spectator area. We will be trying to get more information on that in just a few moments. For now, though, we'll take this break and be right back to Riverside, California. We speculated before our commercial break, the number 90 car, Les Delano, did get into the crowd, and this 12-year-old boy has been injured and is being removed to the hospital. We understand he is Andy Struppler, and his injuries are unknown at this time. Meanwhile, we take a look at the GTP cars that are still in the race. There you can see the rundown of them, and still, Bill, we got a lot of laps to go and a lot of good machinery still in the event.
A tremendous amount of good machinery. Very, very strong. And here's two of the very best right here. The Holbert Bell, the Lowenbrow Porsche, and the Bayside Racing Porsche 962.
We are under green once again. Derek Bell is the leader. Right behind him, though, is the car driven by Paulo Barilla.
Just look at these guys. They're serious. Just flying down the S's. Oh.
Barilla sneaks by Al Holbert, and so Paulo Barilla in this Bridgestone Bayside Porsche 962 has gone into the lead.
Well, that was a combination there where Al had to be a little bit cautious in trying to pass a GTP Light car, and again got off the power, losing that boost. Paulo was able to keep his foot hard on it, kept all the horsepower there. When Al stepped in the gas, there just wasn't enough to get him past.
That Camel Light car was a number 93 Mazda Tiga, driven by Kelly Marsh, Ron Pauley, and Don Marsh. And for a moment there held up Al Holbert, but now he is back around that car and setting his sights on the leader, Barilla, who seems to be pulling away at this time.
Well, what can happen is with the turbocharger working properly, these cars can give you anywhere up to about 780 horsepower. But when your foot is off the gas and you lose that boost, they may be down as low as 400 to 500 range. It really makes that sort of a difference.
Terrific in-car shots there from the Jim Busby car. And you can see the tremendous vibration as we talked about earlier. Is this a particularly rough racetrack? Oh, there's Holbert once again making a challenge, and here is Barilla moving into the pit area.
This is a completely unexpected stop. I don't know what could be wrong here.
Well, the car was running so well, he just blew away from Al Holbert there when he made the pass, but now has come in for a stop.
Well, Walter, the crew chief, whipped the door up right away to talk to Paulo for a second. Now, they are in benefit of radio control, but I think maybe you want to just have an additional look at something inside.
Well, they're taking the engine cover off. Now Klaus Ludwig, also in the Ford Mustang Probe, is slow on the track.
Unbelievable, everything happening at once here. Klaus is going to pull to the inside, I'm sure.
Yes,
I think he is. He's going off the track. He has something that he must feel is either terminal or requires he get the car at least to a safe place where he can work on it.
Another former leader of this event has pulled off the track. And let's go now to Ron Kendrick in the pit area.
Bruce, a very costly pit stop. What's the problem with the car?
There seems to be something wrong with the engine. It's revving up, and then it's not coming back off the rev, so it's hard to shift and drive. They look like they found a problem. I don't know what it is yet, but yeah, it cost us the race.
Well, that car was just working so well, and this has to be a tremendous disappointment for the Levin team. So we'll continue to keep our eye on that situation as we are at the Los Angeles Times Ford Grand Prix at Riverside International Raceway. We'll be back in just a moment. the 23rd annual Monterey Triple Crown from Laguna Seca, California, just up the road from Riverside here. That'll be on the air Saturday, May 17th at 9 Eastern Daylight Time. Well, Paulo Barilla's number 86 remains in the pit area.
What I would suspect, it's a problem that we went through last year with Conti Racing, and that's a jammed throttle cable. Now, racing cars, like the GTP cars, don't have the benefit of insulation like your street cars do, and all of the components are that much more vulnerable to heat. I think maybe something is frozen up here and this thing's stuck wide open.
And Klaus Ludwig is also, as you saw, out of the race. Meanwhile, on the track, Derek Bell is now in the car and is the leader with Rob Dyson right behind him.
Very interesting that the Dyson Porsche is caught right up on Derek. You know, to set heroes, I'm probably going to make 101 enemies by saying this, but my personal hero is Derek Bell. A man of such immense talent, the reigning world champion. He is so fast in a car and yet saves them. Rarely see Derek make a mistake. It's very uncharacteristic. And off the track, you couldn't ask to meet a nicer person. Very friendly, always willing and happy to talk to people. Just really a delightful human being.
Rob Dyson following Derek Bell now on the racetrack. And here is Dyson making the move and going into the lead again. It would appear as if that Lowenbrow Porsche may have a problem because it slowed dramatically coming out of that turn.
Just had no acceleration coming out there, and the Dyson Porsche was able to, well, I just noticed there in the camera he is still running, but I don't know what happened, whether he just maybe missed a shift or what it was. We'll just have to wait a moment and see.
In any case, Rob Dyson in that number 16 car is in the lead once again, and we go back to the pit area here and check on the situation regarding the Levin car and Paulo Barilla. They appear to be sealing it up now, and it's down off the jacks, and Paulo Barilla is going to go back out into the race.
Well Paulo stalled it. Come on, Paulo, fire it up.
And now they get him going.
He'll be cursing to himself inside the car.
So Paulo Barilla in the number 86 Bridgestone Bayside Porsche 962 exiting the pit area and goes back out onto the race course.
See, for all of the parking lot jockeys in the world, even professionals can stall cars too.
This car was so fast before it came into the pit area. We'll see if it is going to be fast once again. Meanwhile, Rob Dyson continues to be your leader.
Well, he has pulled out an amazing lead for one lap over Derek. I don't know what's happening here. Derek is still running because he passed the pits that time, and I saw him. He's continued down through the S's very quickly, but something definitely has gone strange with this car.
He is right now in corner number 9, so he has dropped back considerably from Rob Dyson, and he may be making a pit stop. No, looks like he's going to stay out there, but the car certainly not running as well as it did earlier.
Going awfully slow here.
Oh, now he's stopping.
What is he doing?
He missed the entrance to the pit area, but just as he crossed the line, he slammed on the brakes and now turns into the pit area, but of course he's going the wrong way.
He could get penalized for this. I do hope he doesn't carry on backwards on the track at that point. For him to come down the pit road the wrong way would be an instant penalty.
So Rob Dyson is the leader. Here he is moving down the straightaway. Oh, and getting close to, in fact, bumping one of the slower cars there at turn number 1. That's the same area of the racetrack that we had that terrific 3-car accident earlier.
That just had the potential of doing exactly what we just saw. Absolutely unbelievable twice in the race.
But Dyson survives, and so does the other car. It didn't spin off course, but boy, it could have been a disastrous situation for both drivers and cars.
Oh, having just seen that horrendous accident, just witnessing that's frightening.
Meanwhile, they're pushing the Derek Bell car behind the pit wall. This looks like it could be a terminal situation and a tough break for Al Holbert and Derek Bell. Let's take a look again at the situation right at turn number 1.
Well, again, just not having the room to go through and literally forcing your way through. I think they were almost led into that situation by the Corvette being very wide in the corner. He thought he had room for a clear pass, but at the last minute, you saw him drop his inside wheels onto the dirt to try and get that extra little bit of space. Thankfully, the Corvette was well driven, and the impact did nothing more than just give each driver a bit of a thrill for a moment.
That was a Knowles Morrison McConnell Corvette, number 87, that Dyson had contact with. Now he moves to the inside of a slower car here in corner number 9.
Well, that says something for the strength of both cars, aside from the driving talent being shown in both cars.
Rob Dyson is the leader in car number 16, and we will be back with more of our coverage from Riverside International Raceway after these messages.
They're going to change left.
Who is waiting to replace Rob Dyson. The car is expected in the pit area in a few laps, and Price Cobb will be relieving Rob Dyson. Moving into the pits right now is the 00 car, driven by Jim Adams and John Hoskis. We are almost 5 hours into this race, 4 hours and 44 minutes to be exact.
Well, I think this Wynn-sponsored car gets the award for the wildest paint job of the race.
And there is the Bob Aiken James Weaver, number 5, now running in 7th position.
They've really had a very trouble-free run today, but for some reason just haven't been able to come up and challenge the leaders. I don't know whether they've had some minor problems slowing the car down in some way, or really what's happening. But this car has continued to run very, very strong today. Jochen Mass was absolutely spectacular earlier, a couple of days ago, down through qualifying. I watched him in the S's, and he was just the fastest car out there. Really an incredible performance put on by this world-class driver.
This is one of the BF Goodrich Porsche 962s. Jochen Mass now running in 5th place.
Jochen Mass has been a driver that's been around for a number of years and has driven such a variety of cars, right from the Formula 1s to the GT prototypes. Anything he touches, he does well in.
Rob Dyson once again, who is the leader, but remember, he is expected in for a pit stop soon and will be replaced by Price Cobb. Right now he's moving that number 16 car up through the S's, braking heavily for the right-hander. And this will be a sweet victory for this team if they can hold on.
Well, I'm sure they're hoping they can right now. They just suffered some terrible, terrible pain earlier in the year when at Miami, Drake Olson had a very bad crash in one of their cars. Fortunately without injury, and again a testimony to the car's strength, but literally destroyed their car at the Grand Prix. Now, here it looks like we're going to have Derek Reed. You know what I think has happened? From the speed of the car right now, which is just about 0, I think they have some sort of a gearbox problem where they have lost 2nd and 3rd gears. That would explain the car still having good speed down through the S's, and yet when it comes out of these slow corners or leaving the pits right now, it has no acceleration at all.
It looks as if, though, Bell is trying to get that car back onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, once again, we're following the leader, Rob Dyson, in car number 16. And there is the Lowenbrow Porsche now being driven by Derek Bell, moving slowly through the corners and obviously still having problems.
Right. There's no signs of mechanical problem from the engine itself, so I would think it would be transmission related. Once these Porsche motors, or in fact any turbocharged engine, gets very low in RPM, you lose tremendous amounts of horsepower. It feels like you're driving a street car. Oh, now here's a 711 Ford having problems.
Yeah, this was the leader of the GTO class a few laps ago, but for now, Scott Pruitt and his teammate Bruce Jenner have some problems. They are in the pit area, but at the far end of pit road, so they're going to have to push that car back to their assigned pit area. And that means that the GTU class now being led by Baldwin and Miller combination.
That'll be a GTO class.
And into the pits, the number 67 machine, the BF Goodrich Porsche. That, of course, driven by Jim Busby and John Morton. We have the in-car camera working as the car moves out of the pit area back onto the track.
This is always an interesting shot. Even from a driver's viewpoint, I was fascinated years ago when they first got the in-car cameras working properly. And it really does give the viewer a very good idea of what it's like on the track. There's no way to give a totally accurate feeling of what it is because you're missing the vibration, the noise, just the real sense of speed. But watch the vibration through the steering wheel here. You can see the tremendous pounding that you take. And you're trying to go through this series of corners, as I said, at 160 miles an hour. Very, very difficult.
John Morton now in that car. Here comes Rob Dyson off of corner number 9. We'll see if
Rob's
he chooses to
very low.
Pit area. Yes, he does. He moves low onto the track and comes in for the stop. 5 hours into the event. Let's go down to Ron Kendrick for the call of this pit stop.
Rob Dyson brings the Porsche 962 to a stop for what should be their last pit stop of this 6-hour event. Crew goes over the wall, tires being changed. They will also make a driver change. Dyson now climbing out of the car, Price Cobb climbing in. Cobb will finish the 6-hour event here at Riverside. The team with a comfortable lead helping Cobb buckle himself into this Porsche 962.
Looking for that car.
Crew finishing the fuel stop. The driver, Price Cobb, is buckled in. The car is down off the jacks and away in 44 seconds.
Good pit stop for the Dyson machine, and now with Price Cobb behind the wheel, they set out on the final hour of competition here. We'll see if they can hold on to the lead.
Well, an excellent stop. Oh, no. It looks like Derek is going Derek's dropping off. This is halfway down the back straight, I believe, and it looks like he is absolutely done for the day.
Well, it's been an up and down day for this team. They led for a while, but in the last couple of hours, they have been plagued with what appears to be transmission problems. There is Rob Dyson. He's hoping the team can hold on for the win here this afternoon. We'll be right back.
Well, the 5-car Roos is really putting on the stack as he came out of that turn number 2.
Grand Prix at Riverside International Raceway in its final hour now, and the leader continues to be Price Cobb in number 16. He and Rob Dyson hoping that this car can hold together for the final about 45 minutes now, and they can pull off a victory here.
Well, Price is driving very well. You saw just a few moments ago that the shot just before the pit stop was made. He is very cool, calm, and collected at this point. And from his driving, he's being very precise, just not taking a chance.
Derek Bell in the pit area. Here is Ron Kendrick.
Derek, the car ran where it usually does, up front most of the afternoon. You got in. What put you out?
Well, when I got in, I had no big vibration in the gearbox, really from the differential area, and Al said look out for it. But I mean, as it was, I can only use 4th gear. I couldn't get any other gears at all, so I was just driving around in 4th, and then finally coming around here, I mean, had the temperature was off the clock anyway, and I came out of turn 9, and it just sort of said goodnight, and that was it.
It's got to be awfully disheartening to break this late in the race after running so well.
Well, it is, you know, we seem to get used to it after Sebring and now this, but at least we finished the other races. But it was very sad because the car was so good.
Well, Bill, you were absolutely right. It was a gearbox problem. Here is another problem that's cropped up for John Morton in the BF Goodrich car, number 67. A lot of smoke pouring from the engine of that machine.
Tremendous. From that sort of a symptom with the fire, with the smoke out there, I would think almost definitely this will be from that much smoke, it will be a turbocharger problem. No question about it. This is unusual, actually. Nowadays, the Porsches have almost perfected the turbos to where they're foolproof units, but anything can break, and usually in one of these races it will.
There is John Morton. He has gotten out of the car. Now Bob Wallach, who is driving the number 86 car, tries to unlap himself and is right now running in 3rd spot. So this car that was very strong in the early going, then developed a problem, is back on the pace.
Now, it looked to me right there that Bob is really charging. He was braking very, very deep into that corner. In fact, it carried him out a little further than he really wanted to be. But because of this elevation problem where you're braking over the crest of a hill, you can't put on the brakes as hard as you would like to for as long as you want, or you're going to lock up the tires.
There is Jochen Maas, car number 68, the other BF Goodrich car, in 2nd place.
I think that's who Bob is chasing right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is correct. But has a little bit of racetrack to close in. There's the leader. Price Cobb coming out of corner number 9.
Oh, no.
Wallach has spun.
I was just going to say that the last lap through there, it looked like Jochen Maas got a little bit wide because the track is probably getting slick. After this many hours of racing, you're laying down so much rubber and you get oil coming off the cars, a little bit of fuel. The track does get to be a little bit slippery, and I think it just maybe caught Bob.
I think Bob was probably trying a little too hard also to close in on the 2nd place Maas car. So just a little bit of over anxiousness on Bob Wallach's part.
Well, he's a charger. He always has been, and you put him into a Porsche and let him go.
Well, we are on the last lap of the race. The white flag has been displayed to Price Cobb, so he is making the final trip around this course, hoping that the car will hold together and he can take the checkered flag in just a matter of moments.
What a tremendous day for Dyson Racing and all of the fellas in their crew, having had 2 cars totally destroyed this year and taking this, virtually a brand new car, right out of the box and taking it to victory at Riverside. A tremendous achievement for them. They have really done an outstanding job.
Interesting guy here, Price Cobb, who has driven in Europe and driven all kinds of race cars, drove Super Bs for a while, but now is going to register, it appears, a victory here in the IMSA GTP class.
Well, I think this will be Price's first ever IMSA GT win. I knew him when he was running the Formula Atlantic cars, the smaller open cars. And, he was always very good in that. Never had the financial backing that a lot of the other runners did. Again, with this team giving him a chance, he has really come through and paid thanks to their confidence.
Down the backstretch for the final time, moving up to speeds that will reach 200 miles an hour, although he's probably being a little gentle on the car right now. Moving into the 9th corner, the final one before the checker.
If you look closely, you can just see the sun shining off Price's teeth there. He's smiling right now.
In the middle of corner number 9. Now brings the car off the corner onto the straightaway. He sees the checkered flag in front of him, and Price Cobb takes the checkered flag. The Rob Dyson team has won the 6-hour endurance here at Riverside International Raceway.
Yeah, there's relief on his face as well as a happy time.
And Darren Brassfield, Jochen Mass driving the car right now, appears to be the 2nd place finisher. Here he comes off corner number 9. And Bob Wallach and Paulo Barilla, despite many problems this afternoon, including a spin in the late going, will finish 3rd. Now we move back to the other divisions. This is the Baldwin Miller GTO win.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very good win for Chevrolet and for Camaro. And anytime you can beat or even run with the Roush Protofab cars, you're doing a great job, and they've got to be pleased today.
And finally, the Camel Light winner will be the team of Jim Downing and John Mafucci. So there you see the first 4 finishers in the GTP class. Dyson Cobb pull off the win here. We'll be back in just a moment. The top 6 finishers in today's LA Times Grand Prix. Let's go down to the pit area now to Ron Kendrick, who's with the winning owner-driver, Rob Dyson.
In victory lane now with the winners, Rob Dyson. Rob, it's been a difficult first part of the year for this team, but it all came together today.
Well, it did. 10 days ago, this car was nothing but parts, and the guys worked night and day, and what can I say? The thing worked the way it should. The guys did a super job. Price did a great job, and I'm just proud to be here.
The team really came into this thing with the attitude of, well, let's just at least finish the race.
Well, absolutely. You know, like I said, we've been working so hard, we haven't had time to even savor anything, and I know that tonight we'll have a chance to relax a little bit, and I know then it'll start to sink in. All the work paid off.
You look pretty antsy walking around in the pit area there about an hour before the race was over.
Somebody told me it's kind of like the last innings of a perfect game in baseball, and I'll tell you that's a lot like what it is.
Our race summary showed that there were 178 laps completed, 578.5 miles, the average speed 95.948. Margin of victory 1 lap plus about 57 seconds, and there were 13 lead changes among 7 drivers. Let's go back down to the pit area now, and Ron Kendrick, who is with the driver who took it to the checkered flag. Here's Price Cobb.
Price, you took the car for the last hour of the race. Just a super run for you.
Yeah, it worked out real well. Towards the end, apparently the announcers were claiming that we didn't have as much lead as we thought we had, and they told me to pick it up. We had an oil problem. We were running out of oil, and so I was concerned about it. And they told me to pick up the pace I did. Then they told me to back off, no problem. So it was a lot. With that much lead in hand, you invent problems that are non-existent in reality. But the thing ran great, and I have to give it to my guys. They've been working their tails off. They've had 2 major rebuilds recently, and I'm very, very happy to be here.
Any antsy moments? We saw a lot of attrition today, and we saw a lot of crashes. Any antsy moments for you?
Absolutely, a couple of times. One in particular, when I was following Kelly Marsh in his Camel Light car, and the last thing I remember is as he disappeared into this cloud of dust. It was not his cloud, but I was just praying that neither of us were going to come together, and that was really the most frightening. Other than that, I had a tangle with one other guy, but it was just a minor brush, and other than that, I tried to keep my nose clean, and it really worked out.
The LA Times Grand Prix has been brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by BF Goodrich, TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. It's been an interesting afternoon of racing at Riverside International Raceway from the very beginning. The team of Rob Dyson and Price Cobb have prevailed and taken home the winner's share. About an hour to go, Rob Dyson had his fingers crossed, hoping that everything would work out. And just before Price Cobb stepped into the cockpit for the final time, he closed his eyes and wished everything were over. But then it was over, and the team of Rob Dyson and Price Cobb prevailed. My thanks to Bill Adam in the booth and Ron Kendrick in the pit area. For now, this is Bob Jenkins saying thank you for joining us at Riverside International Raceway. For now, so long, everyone.